I would like to ask Dr. Joseph, Chief Joseph, to come in the front too. I think people would love to see him. First of all, if I am where I am, it's because of my interest in children and education. That has always been my main subject, that I was always concerned about children because of especially the educational system that we've had in this country, that for 150 years and more they thought in the classroom, never mind the residential school, but the day school and all the schools in the country, the history that the Canadians were learning, it was pretty horrifying, because I had to become a teenager and a little bit older to start understanding that it was really designed to teach a whole country to hate our people. And when you're in it, you don't realize that it takes time before figuring out this. When I started to really understand it is when I started to revolt and wanted to see something different in terms of education in this country. And this is how in all my work, it's always children that is the main important aspect of life. And at first started, I heard about Shannon Kustachin, who was trying to have a school for her community in Ottawa-Piscataway. And I heard that Cindy Blackstock was very much involved in this, and I called her up, and this is how I started going into James Bay. I went to Ottawa-Piscataway, and I started working on the story about the school. But while I was there, there was the crisis in the dwellings and housing. So I put this work on the side, and I made a film which is called The People of the Ottawa-Piscataway River. Then I went back and I did I Home is Tahe, which is really Shannon's story. And then I did the Trick or Treaty. They're all connected. And this one I've been working on since 2010, as things were progressing, but very slowly, and all the problems of the appeals from the government and all that. And this is how finally, when it was over, this is the first film, and of course I will make another one. To look at the result. You win, but what did you win?
Yes.
You know?
Are you more hopeful now or less hopeful when you started making these films?
I am more than hopeful. I have great confidence, and the government is going to have to apply what they have been told by the tribunal. Seems to be very slow, but I'm sure it's going to happen.
Please.
Yes, I was wondering, Alice, if you could say, how will this then roll out? What will you be looking for, or what would one look for as evidence of a substantial change? Is it just the rebudgeting? Is it a new professionalization? Will you see concrete?
It's not just money. Of course, money is very important, but I think the change has to come in terms of how they apply the services, and it has to come where the will of our people and their decision, they know what's best for the children, as you have proof when you see all those people who work in that area, and they are forced to use a system that the government obliged them to, and this has to change also.
Chief Dr. Joseph, are you hopeful at this point in life?
I'm very hopeful at this point in my life. I'm getting on, of course, and I've been through all that I've been through, and Aboriginal people have been through all that we've been through. And throughout the course of our history, our resilience as a group of people has developed, and we have never given in to the notion that we should simply submit to prejudice and hatred and division, and that we should always hold on to the idea that as Canadians we all have value and purpose, including all Aboriginal people. And this is what I really hope. This is not going to be measured by the tribunal or our leaders, but when there's a just decision handed down by our tribunal and other court decisions, I hope that's a guide to all of your thinking about who we are together as Canadians, that we stand for equality and justice and compassion and caring for each other. And so I want to thank Alliance again and Cindy Blackstock. They're so brave and courageous to have gone through all of that and to capture it. It's a story that we should value together as we rebuild our relationships and this country together, visioning a future together.
Yeah. Please.
I want to thank Elenice for always being such an inspiration to us. I'm a residential school survivor, and I cried through a lot of that film. It was so powerful. And thank you for inspiring our young filmmakers and for informing people and bringing these precious stories to us. My students would like to come down and offer you a gift. This is, when I saw this over a year ago, I thought of you right away. And I've put it away all this time thinking, next time I see you, we're going to give this to you. So in our traditional way, I want you to come down and each one of you take a piece of it and put your love into this shawl for Elenice. This is a Pendleton shawl. Take it up there behind her up together. All of you. I'm going to have a graduate thing and come down and be part of this. These are the graduates and the students of the Indigenous Independent Digital Filmmaking Program at Capilano University.
And I was so cold. This is beautiful. Thank you so much. Is that hand woven? Is it? Beautiful. I feel so well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And students are always my favorite people. I was wondering if there are people here in this hall that work in those welfare program. Is there anyone here? Yes? Would you come in front and tell us how you feel and what you see about, you see changes, how is it going in your work? And come and introduce yourself. This is nice. Tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Kayla Woodruff, and I'm a child protection social worker.
Yes.
Step up to the mic.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, my name is Kayla Woodruff, and I'm a child protection social worker.
And how is it going in your?
I have just recently started this position.
Oh.
I've been in the position for 6 months, and it's been very eye-opening.
Yes.
It's been very rewarding. It's been
Is it here in Vancouver?
in the Greater Vancouver region. Yeah. I recently graduated from VIFF, so I feel really blessed to have a school of knowledge behind me that is very Indigenous focused, and it's been really nice to be able to bring that into my practice.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, and I really appreciate your
Thank you.
stories as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Caroline Rattericht, and I've worked with the ministry for Children and Family Development since 1996. I started as a child protection worker. I've also worked a couple of years at the Maples Adolescent Treatment Center, and more recently, for most of my career, I've worked supporting, recruiting, and training foster parents.
And how has it been for you?
Well, I've definitely seen an evolution since I started. Certainly in the beginning, Aboriginal child welfare services were combined with mainstream services, and in British Columbia it's been separated out so that we now have dedicated teams working for Aboriginal services. I've rarely worked with children and families on reserve, although I did work with Cindy Blackstock when we were both starting out. Certainly more attention is being paid to Aboriginal children and families.
Since when?
I would say for the last about 10 years or so. Whether that's resulting in improved outcomes, I cannot say for sure. It continues to be a challenge. It continues to be a challenge all around. You know, there aren't generally many resources. So it's hard really to comment on how I've seen it changing and evolving.
What about the film? Did you recognize
Well,
the system?
yes, I did. And one of the things that actually impressed me was, obviously I found it very, very interesting from my perspective, working within child welfare, but the fact that that so many people sat through almost 3 hours of movie on this topic and stayed to the end and continue to stay and continue to be interested, I find really, really gratifying. I understand why I'm interested, but the fact that other people are in the room and that you know, through this period of time that you stayed engaged and involved really means a lot to me in particular.
Is there anyone else who feel would like to come and tell us something?
Please.
Yes, please do.
I don't want to have to come down there, but I want to tell you something. I'm a retired teacher, and I've taught in DC for 30 years, and I've always had a personal interest because of a very close friend of mine when I was a child in the Native people. And I always felt in my teaching, and I taught for grades kindergarten to grade 7, I always felt that we were not talking about our Native people properly. And our curriculum would have art, or we'd maybe talk about totem poles, or we'd talk about carving, or but there was never really any talk about the strength of the Native people and what happened to them, what happened with residential schools. And now that I've retired, I know that my colleagues I've spoke to the last 2 years, the curriculum has changed so much. And now at every grade level, the curriculum is really putting forth so much more about our Native people. And I'm so glad that the kids in the classroom are going to hear
Yes.
what we should have been. But it was almost like when I would talk about it, I was just sort of talking about it, you know, because I personally thought kids should know about it. But I certainly hear what you're saying about you understood. Things weren't being told properly. And as a kid, I was in BC schools my whole life. I never heard anything really about too much about residential schools and the whole situation. So I know change is slow, but you know, I'm so glad to see this, and I'm so glad that our curriculum is changing for all the kids, and they'll love to hear it all. I know kids are really, like you said in the film, they are fair and they are loving. We do things to make them not turn out that way, adults. So I'm so glad it's getting
It's
involved.
happening,
I
and
really
it's
am.
going to be.
So thank you for all of your know it's gonna make a change in this next generation of kids, because they are wonderful little people, all the ones I taught.
Thank you,
Please.
yes.
Hi, I'm actually writing my thesis on this topic, and I kind of wanted to get some of your expertise. So I just wanted to ask, what kind of prevention services would you be like maybe hoping to see more of, or are there key services, or do you think it should be a much more like broad-based approach? Or,
You mean, are you talking about health services
well, whatever you think are,
and education also?
yeah, if you think there's one that's more critical.
Well, in terms of health services, as you can see in the film, and you see these people that have worked a large part of their life with their own people and know what's needed and know how these programs should be applied. And this is what has to be changed, to go back to certain ways and certain things that the people feel is right for our people. And you're not going to heal if you force people again to do a system that is foreign and not respect the language and where the people come from and their culture and their tradition. And a lot of it has to do with healing right there. And this is why this program has to be designed by our own people. That's, I think, first thing, and the money, of course. But it's gonna happen, I'm telling you. I know it will. I know where we're going, we've never been there before.
Alanis, Trila Kwaswan. That's my attempt at Kwakwankwan. Pretty pathetic attempt. Let's not make the same mistake twice. Ladies and gentlemen, Alanis Abomsawin.